Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and remember, Context Everything Media Network founder and CEO John Michael is reading another self-help book. This is the third self-help book that I'm reading on the channel, and it is called Life is Messy by Matthew Kelly. It is not a chapter book, it is just sections. So here we are on a section on page 29. The Dark Night of the Soul. Dark Night of the Soul. In the 16th century, a Spanish mystic named John of the Cross penned a poem known as The Dark Night of the Soul. It narrates the journey of the soul and marks one of the most significant spiritual discoveries of all time. The Dark Night of the Soul is a spiritual crisis, a form of spiritual depression, an existential quandary. It produces doubt, confusion, and soul sadness. The soul sadness we experience during the dark night is an extreme form of sadness that has no cause or explanation. It also produces a spiritual condition known as desolation. In this state, you experience the anguish of complete emptiness. Everything seems meaningless. John of the Cross describes being lost in oblivion. The dark night of the soul annihilates anything you believe about yourself that is not true. Everything is stripped away except your essential life. Your old self is left behind and your new self emerges. And when the darkness lifts, you have clarity like never before, because all that is left is the self you cannot live without, and a piercing sense of how to spend the rest of your life. Emptiness. Next heading. There have been movements of unbelievable abundance in my life, but I have so experienced moments of staggering emptiness. And at this time, I was experiencing a moment of profound emptiness. I had been here before, but never like this. Imagine being hungry and wondering if you will ever eat your fill again. Not that you will die of starvation, but that you will be hungry for the rest of your life. That's how I was feeling. The thing is, the emptiness cannot be dealt with once and for all. There are times in life when we feel so satisfied, so full, brimming and overflowing. One of my most vivid memories of contentment and happiness was just after my daughter was born. I was laying on the bed next to her. She was smiling and making baby noises, and I was suddenly overcome by a wave of endless gratitude. I kept hearing that line from Lou Gehrig's speech in the Yankee Stadium over and over in my mind. Today I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth. I was so happy I started to cry. It was one of the highest highs in my life. But the weeks ahead, a series of events unfolded so quickly they gave me spiritual whiplash. Life went from record highs to record lows at breakneck speed. And once I found myself experiencing profound emptiness and wondering how can such nothingness be so consuming. We all experienced emptiness, and we all have ways of dealing with it. I have dealt with emptiness throughout my life in a variety of ways. They all have been equally ineffective except one. I have tried to fill a void with work, pleasure, comfort, things, and plans for the future, but none of these bring satisfaction because these things don't rightfully belong in the void. When I am finished distracting myself with these things, the emptiness is still there. There is only one approach that has ever worked consistently. I know it works, but still I resist it, preferring these other distractions in the real solution. We all share in this insanity. If we observe ourselves in these moments, we gain unique insight into the mess. Every day we encounter moments of decision. The better path is clear, but we choose another path. The better path leads to this destination we wish to arrive at, and still we choose another path. Each time we choose another path, our life becomes messier. Well, that sounded interesting. Let me reread that. Every day we encounter moments of decision. The better path is clear, but we choose another path. Well, in the situation, sure. The better path leads to the destination we wish to arrive at, and still we choose another path. Each time we choose another path, our life becomes messier. Okay. Learning to deal with our emptiness in healthy ways is one thing. Choosing to deal with emptiness in healthy ways requires self-awareness and courage. The difference between learning to choose is akin to the difference between knowledge and wisdom. I have only found one way that works. This is it. Find a quiet place, sit down, close your eyes, acknowledge God's presence, breathe deeply, talk to Him briefly about how life has left you empty, and ask God to fill you. I know, it sounds so simple, too simple, but the simplicity or complexity is irrelevant. All that matters is this: does it work? Why is life so messy? It is a reasonable question, but it's worth asking whether we really want to know the answer. Perhaps we already know the answer, but we ask the question, hoping that maybe somehow the answer will be different. Life is messy because I am messy. It's messy because you are messy. Any day now, the world's human population will reach 8 billion. We each have our own mess. And of course, if you add all these little messes together, it becomes significant. This isn't necessarily good or bad. It isn't necessarily a problem. The problem occurs when we try to live as if it isn't so. Paul the Apostle observed, "The good that I would, I do not, and the evil that I would not, I do." What was he saying? We don't know. Or we don't do what we say we will do. We don't do what we intend to do. We often don't even do things we most want to do. And worse than that, we often do things we know are bad for us. Things we know will hurt other people. Things that we know we will regret. So we do all these things, even though deep down we don't want to do them. Life should be lived with maximum intentionality, but too often we are conflicted and confused. When we act in these states, we usually cause pain and suffering to ourselves and others. Clarity is necessary to live with great intentionality, but finding that clearly is almost impossible in the midst of the crazy, noisy, busy world. That's why having time in silence and solitude each day is essential. Why is life messy? Life is messy because we are messy. But this is not the only reason. Life is messy for many reasons. Life is messy for reasons that make sense, but it can also be messy in ways that can only be rightly defined as a mystery. Life is also messy because it can be random and unpredictable. We don't like random and unpredictable. The illusion of control is one of the most powerful. The reality is, while we can influence great many outcomes, we are not in control. Despite the indisputable reality, we waste so much energy laboring under the illusion, trying to create and control situations and trying to control people, situations, and outcome. Life is messy, but it isn't just a mess. Life is also wonderful, but this is the perspective that departs us when we are in the thick of a mess. We lose sight of all good and get consumed by the turmoil we are embroiled in. We are tempted at these times to think that life will never be good again. This is the perspective that steals away our hope. The whole truth is that life is messy, but it also is wonderful and beautiful and awe-inspiring. When I began scribbling in this notebook, I had lost this more complete perspective and was trying desperately to recover it. I knew I was lost, and that was a grace, but that was all I knew, and in those dark moments, I didn't know how to get unlost, so I would write in hopes that consciously or unconsciously, I would scribble something down that would point the way toward a brighter future. Wherever you are in your life, I hope these words do you the same for you. Life is messy because we are messy. The way forward always requires that we take responsibility for our part in the mess. Okay, it sounds like we're starting to get to the point in the book where it stops being so negative, because it has been very negative. Not bad, but so negative so far. And it sounds like we're starting to turn to and this is what we're going to do about it, folks. God bless. Have a good day. Bye-bye.